As old King David lay dying, his son Adonijah staged a coup to seize the throne, but Nathan the prophet and Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, intervened, ensuring David kept his promise to make Solomon king. Solomon was anointed with great celebration, forcing Adonijah to beg for his life at the altar. After David's death, Solomon secured his kingdom by eliminating his political rivals, including Adonijah, Joab, and Shimei, as per his father's final instructions. With his reign secured, Solomon sought a treaty with Egypt, marrying the pharaoh's daughter. He went to Gibeon to sacrifice, and the Lord appeared to him in a dream, offering him anything he desired. Rather than asking for wealth or long life, Solomon requested a discerning heart to judge God's people. Pleased with his request, God granted him not only wisdom but also unparalleled riches and honor. Solomon's wisdom was soon proven in his famous judgment over a child claimed by two women. With his kingdom secure, Solomon's legendary wisdom became known throughout the world, leading to a golden age of prosperity. His court was vast, and his fame grew through thousands of proverbs and songs he composed. Yet, his greatest desire was to fulfill his father David's dream, to build a permanent house for the Lord. Solomon began preparations, forging a partnership with King Hiram of Tyre, who supplied the necessary cedar and cypress logs and skilled craftsmen. In return, Solomon provided vast quantities of grain and oil. Solomon then conscripted a massive labor force from Israel, sending them to the mountains to quarry stone and fell trees. The construction of the temple began 480 years after the Israelites left Egypt. The great stones were meticulously cut and prepared at the quarry, so that when they arrived at the building site, no sound of a hammer, chisel, or any iron tool was heard. This magnificent silence was a testament to the reverence and precise planning that went into creating a home for the presence of God. After building the Lord's temple, Solomon dedicated 13 years to constructing his own magnificent palace and a grand hall for his throne. He also commissioned the master craftsman Hiram of Tyre to create the temple's stunning bronze furnishings, including 2 massive pillars, the Great Sea, and intricate stands. With the buildings complete, the Ark of the Covenant was brought into the temple. As the priests exited, a cloud of the Lord's glory filled the sanctuary, so profound they could not stand to minister. Solomon then led his people in a great prayer of dedication, asking God to always hear their prayers. A celebratory feast followed for all of Israel. The Lord appeared to Solomon a second time, reaffirming his covenant. He promised to bless Solomon's house and the temple, but with a stern warning: if he and his people turned away, the temple would be destroyed and Israel would become an example of ruin to all nations. Solomon continued his building projects, but the shadow of this warning now hung over his great achievements. At the peak of his glory, King Solomon's legendary wisdom drew the Queen of Sheba to his court. She was so astonished by his knowledge and the grandeur of his kingdom that she confessed his fame had not been half told. Yet, Solomon's heart was slowly led astray. He married hundreds of foreign women who turned him toward other gods, provoking the Lord's anger. God declared he would tear the kingdom from Solomon's son, leaving only one tribe for David's sake. When Solomon died, his son Rehoboam was to be crowned. The people begged him to lighten the heavy burden of labor Solomon had placed on them. Ignoring the wise counsel of the elders, Rehoboam chose to listen to his young advisors, arrogantly promising to be even harsher. His response: "My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions," sealed his fate. The people of Israel rebelled and crowned Jeroboam their king, dividing the once glorious kingdom forever. A man of God from Judah arrived in Bethel to prophesy against King Jeroboam's new altar. As a sign, the altar split apart and Jeroboam's hand shriveled when he tried to seize the prophet. The man of God healed the king, but was tragically killed by a lion on his journey home for disobeying God's direct command not to eat. This act of disobedience foreshadowed the fate of Jeroboam's own lineage. As prophesied, Jeroboam's son died, and his dynasty was later wiped out by Baasha, a new king who continued Israel's idolatry. Meanwhile, in Judah, Rehoboam and his son Abijam followed in Solomon's footsteps, leading the people into wickedness, which resulted in the plundering of Jerusalem by the Egyptians. It was not until King Asa that a righteous king emerged, cleansing the land of idols. Yet even Asa's faith was incomplete. He failed to remove all the high places and relied on a worldly alliance to defeat his enemy, rather than on God. The kingdom of Israel spiraled into chaos under a series of wicked kings, culminating in the reign of Ahab, who, with his wife Jezebel, shamelessly promoted the worship of Baal. To confront this idolatry, the prophet Elijah appeared, prophesying a devastating drought. He then survived by the miraculous hand of God, who provided food via ravens and sustained a starving widow and her son, whom Elijah later raised from the dead. After 3 years of drought, Elijah challenged Ahab and the 450 prophets of Baal to a contest on Mount Carmel. The prophets of Baal cried out all day to their God, but nothing happened. Elijah then soaked his altar with water and called on the Lord. Fire instantly fell from heaven, consuming the sacrifice, the stones, and the water itself. Overwhelmed, the people of Israel turned back to the Lord. Elijah had the false prophets executed, and he prayed, bringing a torrential rain that ended the drought and proved God's ultimate authority. After his stunning victory, Elijah fled from Queen Jezebel, a woman bent on revenge. He journeyed to Mount Horeb, where he collapsed in despair. But God met him not in a great wind, earthquake, or fire, but in a gentle whisper. The Lord gave him new hope and new work, including anointing his successor, Elisha. Meanwhile, King Ahab foolishly spared the life of the captured Syrian king Ben-Hadad, an act of mercy God condemned. But Ahab's true downfall was fueled by a craving for a vineyard belonging to a man named Naboth. When Naboth refused to sell, Queen Jezebel conspired to have him murdered, and Ahab seized the property. A furious Elijah confronted the king, prophesying that dogs would lick his blood, and the house of Ahab would be destroyed. Ahab humbled himself, and God postponed the judgment until his son's reign. However, Ahab's pride led to his final act of rebellion. Allied with King Jehoshaphat, he consulted 400 false prophets who promised victory in a coming battle. The lone true prophet Micaiah warned him of death. Ignoring the warning, Ahab disguised himself, but a random arrow struck him, and he bled out in his chariot, just as Elijah had foretold.
Subscribe.